The federal government is still weighing up whether to take China to the World Trade Organisation over Beijing's decision to slap tariffs on imports of Australian barley. Brett Hosking is the chair of grain growers and a fifth-generation farmer, and he joins us now from glorious Quambatook in Victoria. Brett Hosking, welcome. First of all, what have the last couple of days been like there? Because we've heard of all this heat around New South Wales. Did much of it reach down into Victoria?
Yeah, Saturday was really hot. End of last week was warm. We don't mind warm weather for harvest, but Saturday, just combined with high winds and hot weather, we actually knocked off for a fair while just because the fire risk gets too great. The last thing any of us want is to spend the day on the back of a fire truck instead of a header. So we had a bit of a rest for the afternoon and then back into it late on Saturday night.
And so how's the season been for you?
Yeah, not too bad. There's been a little bit of frost damage around our area, but for the most part, the crops have been average or slightly better. Prices are still holding relatively strongly thanks to good global pricing, albeit barley's taken a bit of a dive with some of the trade stuff we've got going on. But for the most part, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. So has this tariff already started affecting the volume of barley headed to China and affecting incomes or not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's virtually stopped the trade into China with barley. We still do some wheat and some canola into China, but barley has more or less stopped. In terms of pricing, what we're seeing is a roughly about a $50 per tonne discount for barley for what we would have otherwise been achieving. So instead of going into a premium malt product into China where it would go into beers or high-end spirits, that same quality of grain, it's meeting that malting quality grain, it's actually being sold as stock feed and going down a cow's throat, and which is a little disappointing as a grower who puts a lot of pride into growing it, but more so it's a real loss to lose that key market and those relationships we've built over a lot of years of trade.
And so what percentage of the overall international market is China for Australian barley growers?
Yeah, look, it was more than half for our barley growers, but then it's virtually nothing now.
Wow. And so what impact is that having?
It's meant a number of things. It's meant we've had to look really creatively at where else to export our barley. Now, given the short turnaround time since the tariffs were introduced, a lot of it is going to Saudi Arabia, Iran, those Middle Eastern countries where there's a big demand for stock feed. So it is being sold as a stock feed grade. And unfortunately, there's a freight disadvantage over China going to the Middle East as well. The challenge for industry and government combined is looking forward about how we can go around the globe, explore new markets. China and Australia are not the only people in the world who drink beer and high-end spirits. So let's go out and find those other malt barley markets and look for the opportunities to investigate and maybe capitalise on some of those markets.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're turning it into a positive. But what's your estimate on the hit to the Australian barley industry already from this?
It'll be $500 million or possibly more this year. Over the next 5 years of the life of the tariff, then we're looking at $2.5 billion minimum, and that's felt at the grower end most of all, and so therefore it's felt in our rural communities. It's felt in our churches and our footy clubs and all of those things that keep a vibrant community going.
Right. And so what's your response to people who say, well, this trade war or these trade actions that China is taking against Australia, it's affecting industries on the side kind of thing. The big game is iron ore. That's where all the cash is, and it's not affecting that. But, yeah, from your perspective, it's having an effect already, a significant effect on places around the country.
Yeah, it's having a huge impact, and doing nothing is no longer an option. We actually have to take a next step. We actually have to look at. We've really down to two options now, and it's in asking the WTO to have a look at it, asking China to effectively say, this is the reason why we've imposed the tariffs and justify their position, or the other option is bilateral communication. Now, the bilaterals seem to be failing. Nobody's picking up the phone, so we need to resort possibly to WTO as a next step.
Are you concerned, though, that might inflame the situation, or it's just, from your perspective, it's just what's got to be done?
Look, it's a really challenging one. We're presuming we know how China will or won't respond if we do or don't take them to WTO. What we know at the moment is we haven't taken them to WTO yet. We're still seeing some of these niggling trade tensions, so maybe it won't be any worse if we do. we're a big believer in WTO. We invest millions of dollars Australia every year in being part of that WTO process, as does China. So I think both of us would say, you know what, we've both committed to the independent umpire. Let's see what the umpire says.
Okay, Brett, we'll leave it there. But yeah, just give us an insight to our viewers. What are you up to today there in Quambatook? Are you going to be working the paddock behind you, or you got other stuff to do?
Yeah, no, this is a paddock we're in. We're into our wheat, which is the second last of our crops to go off. We've got some oats at the end. I've got my 16-year-old daughter who's finished school for the year, and she's on the header behind me at the moment.
Cool. So is she driving right now? That header
yeah.
behind you, in the distance behind you, is she driving that at the moment?
She absolutely is. So that gives me the freedom to do this and chat to you guys today.
Good stuff, multitasking. Okay, Brett, thanks so much for having a chat to us from Quambatook, north of Bendigo in Victoria.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.